we can start our lecture. I want to record this. Let me see. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
today I want to make a recap first of the main things that we saw yesterday, and then add on a few things. I not go deep into new things, but I want to make sure that we are at par for everyone that is present. I want you to know that what we are covering is at your level, first of all, but that you need to understand. You know, second year is what makes you mainly an economist. Okay? So please, you must be very much attentive. First year is a honeymoon. You were in a honeymoon, now you are in the second year. So I don't expect any complaints. I need serious students. You need really to focus, because in the third year, yes, you're about to go, so we don't really give you hard stuff. It is hard, but you are used after second year. So please, I want you to really focus. I know somebody sent a message and said this is hard stuff. Yes, it is hard to those who are not ready for the degree, okay? Because second year, for me, if second year makes your degree, okay, that's why you have many course units which are hard in this, which seem hard in the second year, but they are not hard per se. They are doable. Only that it is harder than what you had in the first year, and that is expected. So I'm covering theory of costs, and I said I gave you the introduction where we looked at different basic concepts that you are supposed to know. Of course, under the theory of costs, we reminded ourselves of what the definition of cost means, an economic cost, and under which we said we have different types fixed costs, variable with and so the producer must aim at maximizing profit, and otherwise this is not charity, is in business to make money, to maximize profits. But in order to maximize profits, he incurs costs. Okay, the costs must be taken into consideration. Okay, so there is no way we can look at the producer without the costs. So these are things that are basic. Fixed cost, we defined them. I remember I gave this diagram here, which tries to tell us about the distinctions among the different types of costs, be them variable. Now here, total fixed costs, since they are fixed, that's why you can see, of course, especially if you are in the short run, we have this is a horizontal line, so these are fixed costs, whereas total variable costs, and of course they are increasing, but reach some time where there is kind of diminishing returns. Okay, and so the total costs per se will be a combination of the total fixed cost and total variable cost. That one we saw yesterday. Then we looked at opportunity cost, and we said this is the alternative foregone. If you decide to study, it is a cost, okay? But you could have done other things. So the cost of studying is what you have left behind. So we can put that into monetary terms and it becomes a cost on your part. So that is opportunity cost. We talked about the sunk costs. Sunk cost, we gave an example of a paint, painting your business room. The cost painting will not be recovered. So those costs that cannot be recovered when you start your business, we don't consider the implicit cost. Okay, we only consider explicit costs. Okay, things like the out-of-pocket expenses, historical costs. Please, you had behaved well. Unobwa Ereneo. Unobwa Ereneo, Elisa. Okay? These are all mad people. Okay. Please, can you behave yourselves? Okay. Second year, we expect maturity. Okay. Okay, so I was talking about the difference between economic costs and economic costs, and I was saying that accounting costs will take into consideration only the explicit costs. Things like, of course, as you know, bookkeeping costs. When you talk about economic costs, then we shall have to consider both implicit and explicit costs. That means that at the end of the day, when we are calculating economic profit, yesterday I muted all of you till the end, and I don't want to do it today. Because then you cannot ask questions. But I expect you to behave. Okay, so I'm saying that given the definition of an economic cost and accounting cost, which present differences, it means that even when we are defining an economic profit or an accounting profit, this will be different. Where economic profits, of course, will consider total revenue minus the cost that we have defined for economists. Whereas for accounting cost, it will be revenue minus only the explicit costs. Examples of economic costs are here presented: labor costs in the form of wages and salaries, capital costs in the form of interest rates, cost of entrepreneurship services in the form of profits. These are costs, and they are for an economist, these are very, very critical. Okay. We also mentioned something about depreciation, which is considered in our calculations. We said this is the loss of value of any good or asset over time. And we gave an example of a machine. You are starting a business, a salon, for example, and of course we said painting that room is a sunk cost. But you also buy a machine that will cut people's hair, which of course you know very well for you, people who normally go to salons. And so that machine, of course, you can resell it. Reselling it means that it has some value, but over time it depreciates. In other words, if you take time, of course, you bought it at maybe 100,000. After 6 months, it could even be 50,000, so on and so forth. The other day, it loses value. That is depreciation, which is very, very important also when we are calculating. All these are considered costs. But now, the aim of the firm is to minimize those costs. We said that the firm has two alternatives in its objective of maximizing profits, it can either, one, minimize the costs to produce a given level of output, meaning that in the function of profit, we have output as part, and also we have the cost, okay? That's why we know that for profit, profit is equal to revenue minus cost, where revenue constitutes profit, price times quantity, then cost constitutes the prices of those inputs. And basically we said we are assuming two inputs here, capital and labor, and we said that the entrepreneur costs and all the other costs are considered under capital. So generally, these are our assumptions, as we are going to see very soon. I mean, I'm recapping what we saw yesterday, simplifying assumptions, where we said that we are assuming only two homogeneous inputs. Homogeneous meaning that one could easily replace the other without losing any aim of the amount of output that we'd like to achieve. Homogeneous, so it means I could reduce one and replace it with the other, and so on and so forth. Homogeneous inputs, and we have labor and capital. Would either mean so we have those two important objectives, either one or two will lead you to the same thing. So that is very important. And those assumptions I've just mentioned are very critical. They are very significant. We are assuming a perfect competitive environment. At the same time, we are assuming that we have two homogeneous inputs. So I'm repeating these things because yesterday, some people, because it was the beginning, some people did not pick. I want you to pick something. You see, we want to graduate all at the same time, okay? Same day, okay? Freedom Square, everyone should be there, okay? So that's why I'm being a parental function. R times K plus WL, where R is the price for capital and W for labor. Okay, so that means that if we have, who is that one? Who is talking without putting up a hand? Okay. Someone is saying someone didn't attend yesterday. It is not my problem if you didn't attend. Actually, you would even be very grateful because I'm repeating what I taught, a few things. Okay. Okay. So if we have a cost function which is given as RK plus WL, where R is the price for capital and W these are and that is what we said yesterday. And you can see that for this new equation where K is the subject, we have W over R here as the coefficient attached to L, meaning that it is the slope of this isocost line. And you can see that it is negative. in production, it is called the ISO quant. Okay, ISO quant. So now we shall have to introduce that. But before we do that, let us have the definition economic profit revisited. And we said that the economic profit, of course, will be R minus C, revenue minus cost, which gives us finally this equation, which we should not miss. So this equation A star, which is a profit function, shows that economic profits obtained by a firm are a function of amount of capital and labor employed. You can see that profit here is a function of capital and labor. You can't see any other extra variable except the prices. P is the price of output, W is the price for labor, R is the price for capital. So you can see that in our profit function, as we proceed, should be aware that it is actually a function of the capital and labor. Okay, so now I said that we get the cost, the ISO cost line from the cost function. From the cost function. Okay. Now, and I also mentioned Colin Mugweri.
Yes, you always use that terminology of the slope. So if you say W over, I'm saying you
Yes.
always use that terminology of the slope. So if you say W over R is the slope of the ISO cost line, it confuses me. Then other than that, you talked of the accounting and then the economic costs. May I know if it is better when I'm calculating my profits to use either the economic or the accounting costs? Which of the two is better actually?
No, we cannot use accounting. We cannot use accounting costs. Oh, sorry. We cannot use accounting costs. We are in economics. I was only trying to give you the difference between us economists and accountants. Okay. So we basically have to use the economic costs. Actually, it is superior because for it takes into consideration both implicit costs and explicit costs. Okay. So it gives you actually the nearest whatever you have to. The other one could be deceptive, but still it is. But who is this one? Someone is putting.
So you're very clear. We are getting seriously.
Let me see. Okay, so now what you have here is you said that I talk about W over R as the slope. The slope here, when I talk about the slope, I'm talking about, yes, let me go back to this diagram here, and I'm saying W over R is the slope. Why? Because it is, you can see it is the coefficient, okay? It is, you know, coefficient. It is the coefficient on L here. K, remember we are talking about the ISO cost line. So this is a line. A line means that you can put points here. Maybe if this was 0, this was 0, this was 2, this was 2, this was 3. Then you can draw that line. After drawing that line, you will see that this line, which is sloping downwards, must have a slope. How do you get the slope? The slope normally is got by differentiating. Okay, differentiating. So it is decay. I didn't want to go into that. It is decay dl. So decay dl, the slope of that curve here, decay dl is negative W over R. So that's what I meant. Okay. So if you want to get a slope, you have to differentiate decay dl. Okay, take that derivative, and you can see that there is no K here, C over R. There is there is no error here, but there is error here. So decay dl, in other words, differentiating capital with respect to labor. Okay, and the coefficient there is negative W over R. So it means if I take a decay dl, it means I'm finding the slope. Okay, I'm finding the slope. So that's why I talk about the slope as negative W over R. And it is negative, as we said, because the curve is downward sloping. Okay, somebody is writing on our screen. I don't know who. Okay, these are sadists. These are sadists. You know, these ones are always in society. Okay, let me first share again. Okay, so that is what we wanted to talk about here. But I mentioned that we have different iso-cost lines. The reason why we talk about minimization of cost is that the firm has at its disposal different budget budget constraints. These are different costs. Okay, but now it would like to pick. Aineviona, please, you are writing on our screen. Then Muhumuza, I'm going to jot your names here. I don't know whether what you are doing, you know what you are doing, or you are just doing it ignorantly. Okay, please, can you respect us? Okay. So, my dear friends, we have different iso-cost lines. So we want to minimize, we want to pick one which is the lowest iso-cost line, because the lowest iso-cost line would give the firm the lowest costs to produce a given level of output. But we are saying that it may not necessarily be the lowest. The lowest here is K1L1, for example. Then we have K2L2. Then we have K3L3. And we are saying that it may not necessarily be the lowest iso-cost line, the lowest iso-cost line that we have to pick. Okay, but because we have to take into consideration the output level that we want to produce. So that's why we introduce the isoquant here, which is P, isoquant P here. Okay, so now we shall pick only that lowest iso-cost line that is tangent to the isoquant, and that will give us, of course, the optimal level. At that point where the isoquant and the lowest iso-cost line meet, that's where we actually have the optimal bundle, okay, to use. My dear friends, how does one make these things? Writing on our screen. What can we do to such people? Suggest.
Wrong elements. Eliminate
just
them.
remove them. Just remove them.
They might even be strangers from outside the world. Remove them.
Give them 0.
Because
even primary kids are better than them.
I don't know. They are not respectful at all, and of course their names come with what they are doing here. So I don't know whether I could take it up.
Yes, we identify them and block them.
They are very easy to identify because
just retake them, so give them automatic retake.
Because they are not respectful at all. Please, can you really stop if you are behaving that way? We have seen Ojambo, we have seen, I don't know who.
First hear the name Ojambo, a stranger.
Sometimes by mistake.
Student called Ojambo? Anyway, let us not give them a okay, can you see the screen now? Okay, so my dear friends, we are saying that for a we are going to endeavor to find this point E. And what are we saying? That at this point E, the slopes, the slope of the iso-cost line and the at these things, the isoquant, because that is where it is supposed to be taught. But if I may just say something about it, the isoquant is the slope. I mean, the slope of the isoquant is the level of output along that curve to get the same more labor. On this side there is labor. It is reducing on capital. So you can see it is substituting capital for labor. So that is what it is called marginal rate of technical substitution. The other way around is also true. As the farm moves up the isoquant, it is utilizing more capital and reducing on labor, meaning that it's substituting labor for capital. That's why the slope of the isoquant is called the marginal rate of technical substitution. And when you look at it critically, that slope is the same, because remember, finding a slope means taking the derivative, differentiating, okay? Differentiating that chu is now the production function. So you differentiate chu with respect to any of the inputs, the chu, the L, the chu, the K. Okay, and for the isoquant here, we shall have of course it is the chu dl divided by the chu dk, meaning that we have the marginal product of labor divided by the marginal product of capital as the slope of the isoquant, which is the same as the marginal rate of technical substitution. Okay, who is this one? Okay, so the two slopes. The slope, first of all, there is a slope here. The slope of the isocost line, and then the slope of the isoquant. Okay, the slope of the isocost and the slope of the isoquant. This must be clear in your heads, okay, from the word go. So in order for us to minimize the costs, we need to establish that point, okay, E at point E. And we have said that at point E, the two slopes must be the same. Okay. In other words, here I'm writing PL over PK, price of labor over price of capital. The same thing as W over R, because the price of labor is W, the price of capital is R. Okay. But here there is no negative. It is, but we know that it must be negative. Why? Because the slope here of the isocost must be negative. Okay. Okay. So who is this one? Mbishizimana, is he one of you?
No.
Yes, Jesse, can you ask your question?
Yes. Yes, sir. I didn't get about the negative slope. You are saying it's not negative, but the slope is sloping via the negative side.
Who is saying it is not negative?
You are the one who said it, sir. Just your last statement. On your last statement.
No, I didn't say that. Maybe just.
No.
In any case,
Yes,
in any case, what you are saying is you got the right thing. If you're not asking the question, please don't intervene. Okay. So the question, I have been saying it all along that the slope of the isocost is negative. Okay, and we saw why it is negative. So if I said positive, then it must have been a slip of the tongue. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. So our emphasis is to find this point E. Okay. Two things are clear. We have the cost. And from the cost, we derived the ISO cost line. Then we have output. From the output, that's what we have as the ISO quantity. Okay. And because we are minimizing cost, that's why you have different ISO cost lines. When it comes to maximizing output, then we shall have different levels of ISO quantities and only one ISO cost line. But here we have different, the farm has different sets of ISO cost, of cost, different cost curves. Okay. And then it is asking you as an expert, please. Semuju, Tony, please. Semuju, Tony, behave yourself. Okay. Okay, so we are saying that the difference between the other two alternative choices for a farm, either to minimize cost or to maximize output, are reflected in the graphs themselves. For this particular graph, we have different ISO cost line, different cost budgets, and you are an expert, and the man is telling you, please, can you help me? How can I optimize? So then you go into your own calculations, given the data that he has provided you regarding capital and labor and their prices. So you will see, then you will advise and say, no, it is better to go with this where you have K2, L2, that should be your cost budget. Use that one, okay? I will be a very good economist. So that is the point that we want to find out, even in the calculations, okay? And I'm saying that the reason is why we endeavor to minimize cost is that we take K1, L1, that ISO cost line, is less than K2, L2, is less than K3, L3, okay? Of course, the lowest ISO cost, this K1, L1 would be the best, but can you use it because you have a constraint, which is the production, the output. Okay? So you have to take that into consideration, and therefore we can proceed. And yeah, I talked about the short run cost minimization problem. Short run means that one of the variables is, and we took capital as fixed. So given this production function Q as a function of L and K bar, that means that capital here is fixed. We can represent it on our graph here as K here fixed, being a straight line. And of course, we have the ISO quant here, which is Q. In the short run, this farm will be producing L star and a K bar. Given that K is fixed, we have nothing to do about what L star will be. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have Sesanga in your class?
We don't know.
Anyone who knows?
They're apologizing.
He's apologizing in the chat.
Sesanga Cliff Mugerwa is apologizing in the chat.
Yes, just check there. Sorry, sir.
So please, Sesanga Cliff Mugerwa, behave yourself. Can you remove what you have written? That D on our screen. You have written it, but you can't even remove it.
Yeah. Differentiating.
So that is ignorance, not so? Okay. Patrice Emile Lumumba, yes, please. You are putting up your hand.
Yes, Doctor, I'd like to take you back a little bit. The second paragraph after the graph for the cost minimization, there is a statement that is saying that there is some statement that has been giving me some challenge, which says it is clear from the figure that the minimum total cost of producing Q0 is given by K1 L1, where the total cost curve is just tangent to the isoquant. I thought the curve that is tangent to the isoquant, actually it's the tangency is at point E, which is K2, which is K2L2. So I thought our iso cost line would be K2 L2, but it's like I'm reading K1 L1.
It is clear from the figure that the minimum total cost for producing Q0 is given by K1 L1, where the total cost curve is just tangent to the isoquant. The cost measuring output combination of 0 star. Okay. I think that was an error. Okay. Thank you. That was an error. Thanks for that good observation.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a typo. Okay. It was a typo, so please you can correct it. You can correct it. I'm also looking for it. Where it is. So it is, please the others can keep quiet, because if you don't have any question, you don't need to disturb us. Okay, so we're just trying to recap what we saw yesterday a bit so that we are clear. So we are saying that given a Q as 10 K power half, power negative half, no, I mean K bar power half, then L power half, that means that we have a short run environment, K is fixed. So we can make here L the subject of this, and of course making L the subject means we shall have 2 over 10 K bar power half, and then it leads us to L star, which is equivalent to 2 squared over 10 K bar. Okay, that one I don't need even to teach you how to do it. Everyone should be knowing how to do that. Now, given your introduction in math, so L star here becomes the input demand function. Okay, input demand function. What do we mean? A function that describes the optimal factor input level for every possible level of output. So for every possible level of output, the firm we should be using L star. L star, in other words, it should be employing L star. Okay, so if we had the D, we knew K and we knew also Q, then we could have a specific number. Now, long run. In the long run atmosphere, all variables are changing. Okay, all variables are changing. Cost of labor, of course, is W. Cost of capital is R, and we have a cost function, which is a function of the total quantity, okay, produced. Okay, which is given as WL plus RK. Okay, so we have this still here. We are given the ISO cost line. I don't need to repeat that. We have seen that. So in that environment, we have if we have an isoquant, which is Q bar means that now, of course, for Q bar means that in this case we are trying to minimize cost subject to a given output level, which is a Q bar, and the Q bar here is the isoquant. Okay, so we are required to find K star and the L star. That is the point where we have the equilibrium situation. So we said at that point, which we would love to find K star and the L star, at that very point, the two slopes for this isoquant and isocost line should be the same. Okay, should be the same, should be equal, meaning that the marginal rate of technical substitution, which is normally given from our calculations, which is given as the ratio of the marginal products, that is marginal product of labor to the marginal product of capital, should be equal to the slope of the isocost line, which is negative W over R, okay? The ratio of the prices. So meaning that under that situation, we shall have equation 4.1, which is MPL over MPK is given as negative W over R. So at that point, that should be the condition. That condition is actually should be met. Okay, should be met. And this can be, of course, we can manipulate this. We can manipulate that. Equation 4.1, of course, we can say, for example, MPL divided by W is equal to MPK over R, okay? It doesn't matter. These are the same things. This negative, somebody may wonder where the negative has gone. You can put it back if you want, but it may not necessarily be important at this point, because what we want to define here is that actually, if you look at MPL over W, what does it mean, okay? It is the value of the marginal product of labor, meaning that now margin productivity of labor per dollar, per shilling, for example, per the cost of that input should be the same as the margin productivity per dollar of that capital, for example. Okay. So that's exactly, in other words, the interpretation here is very clear. We are saying margin product of labor over W means that it is the margin product per shilling, meaning that per amount of money that you spend on labor, okay, capital per person, and that one will be will come later again, so that such that when we are defining these things, you need to appreciate and know what they really mean. And we are saying that for any farm, this relationship must stand, especially when we are under perfect competition. Okay, so that must be the cost minimizing mix. We have a scenario, for example, where MPL is equal over W is less than MPK over R, and we asked ourselves yesterday, what should we do if that is the case? Because in equilibrium, these must be equal. But now what we have is that MPL over W is less than MPK over R. So what should the farm do? As an economist, what should you advise these guys to do? Okay, so you need actually to find a way to lower answer that question. Mukisa Igogo Joel. Yes.
I just wanted to ask something.
First answer mine.
Okay, first. Okay, first again.
Hey. You have a scenario where MPL over W is less than MPK over R. What should you advise the farm? And I'm saying that if you increase the usage of capital, what would happen to the MPK over R? They have eyes, but they can't see. The answer is there even on the screen, you see? So you can't read even the notes and you understand them. This inequality, let me read for you what is there. This inequality tells us that this current use of labor and capital cannot be an optimal solution to the cost minimization problem. To understand why, consider the effect of taking $1 spent on labor input away, thereby lowering the amount of labor input. Okay, raising the MPL. Remember the law of diminishing marginal returns, and spending that $1 instead on capital and increasing the capital input. What will happen if you increase capital usage? If you increase capital usage, what will happen? It will reach a time when of course there is diminishing returns, and therefore, if the farm is faced with a situation where the ratio of MPL to W is less than MPK, the ratio of MPK to R, it should therefore, the farm do? It should increase what? The use of what? Of capital, okay? Capital. Such that you employ more capital. When you employ more capital, this ratio here will reduce, okay? will reduce, eventually reduce, and then time is going to come when they will be, these two will be equal. MPL over W should be equal to MPK over R. Why should this reduce if increase capital? Because whenever you increase an input usage, the marginal product, the extra output produced by an extra unit would diminish eventually. Okay, that's what it means. So now, can you ask your question again, or it has been answered? Okay, so we have that curve. Still, it is just repeating a replica of what we have just said. The optimal choice, showing with the optimal choice, but now using these two, x2 and x1. They're the same things. You can name x2 as K, x1 as labor. It doesn't matter, but this one is trying to emphasize what we have just said. In the long run, that is what happens. Now, we said the problem is to minimize the cost, subject to an output constraint, which is given as Q as a function of L and K. We said that what we do here is to define a Lagrangian function, say F, which must be a function of L. Oh, this error, second error is a typo error, so you can put it as K, L, K, and lambda. Okay, L, K, and lambda. L, K, and lambda, and which is equal to WL plus RK. Okay, WL plus RK minus lambda into F of L and K minus Q. Of course, what we are saying is that we are subtracting FLK minus Q, and that will give us the Lagrangian. Of course, the purpose here of introducing, by the way, lambda here is the Lagrangian multiplier. Okay, the Lagrangian multiplier, which we eventually said is the marginal cost. Okay, marginal cost of what? It's the extra cost of increasing output by employing some extra unit, okay, of input. So this is the marginal cost. Okay, so lambda is the Lagrangian multiplier. So the first order conditions can now be taken, and they should show us df dl. Of course, this is df dl must equal df dk must equal to df d lambda, all of them meaning that they are equal to 0. Okay, that is the first order conditions. So the first order conditions here, we got w is equal to lambda into that, and we said that df dl, where f is a function of L and K, is the same thing as the marginal product of labor. Okay, and the df dk here is the marginal product of capital, which we said that this can also be written as FL, and here FK. Okay, so the third equation now becomes, of course, it is df d lambda. The f d lambda will give us Q, which is equal to the f as a function of L and K. So we have three equations: 4.4, 4.5, 4.6. So once that one is done, then we can go to equation 4.4 and equation 4.5 to determine, because there is a lambda here. So we can actually make lambda here the subject in 4.4 and make lambda the subject here, 4.5, such that if we have a lambda and a lambda is always equal to lambda. So it means that we equate whatever we get here for lambda, and we equate it to what we get here also for lambda. This is exactly what is done here. And we have got W is equal to lambda FL, implying that lambda is equal to W over FL, where FL is the marginal product of labor, which is the same thing as the FDL, where F is a function of L and K. And here we have R is equal to lambda FK, which is the same as lambda equal to R over FK. Now, once you reach there, you are proceeding on steadily. We are saying that lambda is equal to lambda. So since lambda is W over FL, lambda also is equal to R over FK. So we are free to equate these two since they are the same things. Okay. So we have W over FL is equal to R over FK. So this is the same thing I'm saying, and I'm repeating for emphasis, that the slope of the isoquant, the slope of the isoquant is what? Is MPL over MPK, which is the same thing as FL over FK. Now, there is a step here which I have not shown you, which you can see already. W over FL being equal to R over FK. This whole thing can be manipulated to tell you that FL over FK will be equal to of equilibrium. The two slopes must be equal, okay, on the graph. The two slopes, the slope of the isoquant, the slope of the isocos line must be equal. So here, although I'm putting W over FL is equal to R over FK, this is exactly the same thing as FL over FK is equal to W over R, meaning that the marginal product of labor over the marginal product of capital, which is the slope of the isoquant, and which is given here, must be equal to W over R, which the isoquant is tangent to the isopost line. Okay, Angelina. That I try to explain. Now, we can, as economists, we can still go to find out. We have said that if L over Fk is equal to W over R. Order conditions. And the 4.5, that is where we have got them from. Okay, that relationship has been received from that those two equations, and we are saying that we can still draw some more conclusions out of that alone. Okay, so equation 4.9, which is this, which we have just got from up there, which is Fk over R is equal to Fl over W. Okay, is the same as okay, marginal cost. Argue, okay, we can as well argue that this lambda is equal to MC is equal to that whole thing, and of course we can manipulate this. There's no problem about it. This kind of relationship means that the marginal productivity per shilling, whether it is per dollar, I don't care, per shilling spent should be the same for all inputs. Don't you see that that is the case? How? You can see that we have FL over W, meaning that we are talking about the marginal product. I think I mentioned even this earlier, the marginal product per dollar spent. So these must be the same. So that is what we saw yesterday, and I think now you understand what it means. Okay, after some kind of emphasis. Okay, so the marginal cost is that. And again, multiplier from the cost minimizing problem. As is the case for all constrained optimization problems, I'm talking about constrained optimization problem. Another. So in this case, we want to minimize. You know, optimization means either minimization or maximization. So we are minimizing cost, but we are constrained by output. That's why we say minimizing cost subject to we are saying that as it is the case slightly, that's exactly have the constraint going okay. I'm saying that otherwise, if you do not have the constraint, you would go and actually produce using the very lowest ISO cost line. But because you are constrained, then you have to take into consideration the ISO quantity. And that's why we have actually to produce not at this lowest ISO cost line, but where we have the ISO quantity tangent to the lowest ISO cost line possible. So that is where the optimal choice is. Okay, so that one must be very clear, and it is important for us to understand. Now, there is an example here which is given. Suppose the production function of beer. Production function of barrel of root beer is given as 10 power half k power half. We have 100 hours of labor and 100 hours of capital to yield 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000 barrels. How does that come about? 100 barrels of labor. Remember, if we put labor here is 100 power half, it will give you 10. Because power half, a half means you take the square root of 100. Okay? Then K is also equal to 100 power half, but K is 100, so 100 power half, it means that you take the square root of 100 and you get 10. So that's how you get 10 times 10 times 10 and get 1,000 barrels of root beer. Now the question will be, because this is from a layman's language, maybe, okay? Somebody who has not done economics and thinks this can work. But the question will be, is it the most cost-efficient way to do? Is it the most cost-efficient way? That's why you are doing economics, so that you can advise accordingly. Okay, is it the most cost-efficient way to do it? Should I employ actually 100 hours of labor and then 100 hours of capital to achieve 1,000 barrels of root beer? Of course, I will get those 1,000 barrels of root beer if I do that. But the question will be, is is most cost efficient mix? Actually look at different different bundles, okay? Different bundles. So the question we want to answer is, what should we mix? How much of labor, how much of capital should we cost? You don't has some kind of maximization of profit in the mind, and the minimum maximizing profit comes at a cost, okay? At a cost, and therefore we want now to minimize these costs. Okay, so if given this production function, what we do is actually first to get the marginal product of labor, which is d2 dr. Okay, I've not put it here, but d2 dr is the marginal product of labor. So in other words, differentiating labor in quantity, this 2 here, I'm differentiating labor. I want to see the changes in labor. How do they affect the 2? That's what I'm doing, marginal product of labor. And here you will get, of course, the 5 L power negative a half, K power half. How do you get 5 here? Everyone, I think, knows from your knowledge of differentiation the first year. This does not require too much knowledge. You only need differentiation knowledge. So if you skipped that lecture in the first year, please, you have to go back and revisit and see that you pick up those concepts clearly. So marginal product of labor here is the d2 dl, okay? D2 dl, meaning that now I multiply a half times 10, then I get L power half minus 1. That's why I can see that you have negative a half here. Here you have 5. K remains the same because you are differentiating with respect to L. Then you go to K now with respect to K. This is what you get. Okay, and therefore, why are you struggling to get those marginal products? Because you need to find at that point where the farm should be maximizing. We said at that point we need to find the slope. So at that point we need slope, and the slope of the isoquant, the slope of this this 2 is equal to 10 L power half K power half. The slope of that is the marginal rate of technical substitution. Okay, so in other words, we want to establish how much should we produce for K later on. Now, the marginal rate of technical substitution, we said, is the ratio of the marginal products, which is MPL over MPK. That's why I've been struggling to get MPL and also to get MPK. And so once you have MPL and MPK, you divide them to the rate of technical substitution. Now, I know people will ask me so many questions because of math here, but I cannot go into that. I need you to do it yourself, okay? So divide, in other words, 5L power negative a half K power half over 5L power half into K power negative a half. And you are going to get at the end, after you have manipulated this, 5 will go. Now this L, you have K L power negative a half, will go down, and it will find the L power half, so it becomes just 1L. Then K power half, it has this K because it is negative going up, it becomes positive. So you add the powers and you get also 0 K power 0, K power what? Power 1. So you have actually K over L. K over L means so you can as well replace 2 with 1,000. So that means that I have 1,000 is equal to 10 into L power half into K power half. But I know from my my calculation here that K is equal to 4L. So I replace K with the 4L. So this is why what I'm bringing here is this 1000 is equal to 10L power half into 4L. The whole thing is power half. And of course, calculating this, I can get L, okay? L, because I only have one unknown, which is L. And so L will be got as 50, okay? 50 here, okay? 50, because you know this is 1000 over 10, it gives 100. 100 is equal to L power half into 4L power half. Remember, 4 is inside the bracket, so 4 is also power half, L is also power half, okay? So if you remove the bracket, 4 goes out, it goes with its power half, L goes out, it goes also with the power, okay? Because everything within the brackets is to the power half, okay? So that means that the square root of 4 is 2, okay? Okay, and then you have L power half. You have L power half, L power half. You have two L's, it is a multiple, so you have to now add the powers, and you get L is equal to power, L power 1, okay? So 2 times 2, of course, 2 times 10 is 100, and you take it this side, 1000 over 100, you get what? You get what do you get? You get what do you get? You get 100 over, okay, let us take it like this. I have 100, 1000 4, which is a 2, and a 2 is 50, which is equal to L, because L became 1 only, L power 1. Since there is a half, there is a half. So L is 50. If you have L as 50, now those are the specific 50 and it will to produce 1,000 barrels of root beer for this farm. Okay, it is not. We can have so many ways of achieving 1,000, but the most effective way . 50 hours of 100 hours of labor, and then 100 hours no. After our calculations, it has shown that actually we can only use 50 hours of labor and then 200 hours of capital. Of course, when you multiply them, you can see that they give you 1,000, and that is true. Okay.
Where it gets going.
Which -4?
The one we had on ratios.
Huh? Where? Okay.
There are 2 of 20 over 4.
Okay, we are saying K over L is equal to 4. That's what you're asking, eh?
Yeah, because we had a -4, but now it's not a positive.
We had a -4. Now, what about here, marginal rate of technical substitution? Do we have also a negative here?
Yes, there's a negative.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
True.
So then you have an exercise here for you to do some supplementary examples here. I mean, for you to do. Some of these have been done here, not by me, because these were not, some of these were made by some other person. But I will need to go through them and see whether the solutions are okay. But you can try them also yourself. 1, 2, 3. Okay. You may find some problem with this solution. I don't know. I've not done it, but it will be up to you to discover whether the answers are correct. But I have some doubts because when I see immediately from what I see here, anyway, what you do, go through them and then find the solutions. Of course, I will also go through them. If I have some problems with them, I will share with you and then give you the right things. But only when you have also given me your own solutions. Then number 4 also is here, which is generic. It has Q is equal to, it is a Cobb-Douglas production function, which is A K power alpha, then L power beta. But now these ones require you, of course, you have a constraint, not so? So they require you to do what? To get the Lagrangian function, okay? As we did before there. So it is, you can go through them, but I will also do them for you to see whether they are the right things. Okay. This one, especially now this one, I love this one. This number 4. Suppose the objective of the firm is to minimize expenditure. That is, of course, the cost, subject to the given output level. Obtain the cost minimizing inputs. That is interesting. When you look at those past papers, these things do not change. We almost bring the same things, similar, because how can we change these things except maybe for the production function, you can just change it a bit there. But what we are interested in is to see whether you have captured and the concepts and how really you can apply them. That's the reason why whenever I was talking about these mathematical elements, I was trying to refer to them to the graph. Okay, such that you know how to advise, not get rid of math in economics. It is part and parcel of economics because we use mathematical concepts to really make life simple for some of the things that have numbers and unknowns. Okay, so you can go through these ones and of course, at getting what we have. Of course, if you get what is here, that is well and good, but also don't convince yourself that if you don't get what is here, then maybe these ones are wrong and you are right. No, cross-check your answers with your friends and see. Yes, let me begin with Mukisa. Mukisa, you have a question? You're putting up your hand. Put down your hand if you are not asking a question.
Okay, so
okay, that one. Mukisa?
What I wanted to say, like
to say or to ask.
Okay, what I wanted to ask. When we got the answers, like I don't know why do you say, for example, 50 hours of labor? Why don't you just say labor?
No, we are the unit of measurement is hour. Okay. Leave alone those who pay per month. That one is, that's why you can see a lot of inefficiency there. But even you guys, when you are going to look for employment, somebody hour, of course, per hour, meaning that you should have done some decent job. You know, here in Africa, sometimes it is very difficult. Somebody give an hour, but he has done almost nothing. There, when I was, for example, in Australia, when you drive a car and it gets a problem, you call a mechanic comes to repair it, but you pay that mechanic per hour. It is per hour, okay? So everything is counted in terms of hours. Even the machine is counted in terms of hours. How many hours will it be able to serve you? What is its lifespan in terms of hours? labor, implicitly we're talking about hours. Okay, so
Okay, thank you.
Sarah?
My network has been on and off. I didn't get the example very well.
No, I can't go back there. Sorry, but you read it and ask also colleagues, because an example that is too big, an exercise you are giving me. If you had just one particular thing that you did not understand, that would be better. But me going back to the whole thing, no, please, we are available also at campus. You can come to 4.14 if you have time, and then we can go through what you are dozing. Yes, Mugweri. Mugweri, I can't hear you.
No, for the example you have taken us through.
Along some graph somewhere. The graph explains why we have marginal product of labor over marginal product of capital. This is, don't forget that the vertical axis has capital, the horizontal axis has the labor. And in order to get the gradient, I don't know whether you have done some math in senior 4, but these are simple things for us, everyone to remember, that if you want to find the slope of a curve, what do we do? Finding the slope of a curve, what do we do? So we take given that we have capital on the vertical axis and then labor on the horizontal axis, so the slope will be the slope of the it will be the slope of the of capital. Slope of labor over slope of, which is the marginal product of. We take the marginal product of labor over the marginal product of capital. Don't forget, this is in essence, we are saying that in the firm substitutes, as you go down the curve, the firm substitutes capital for labor. Okay, so that is your network is very poor. But I think it was still poor when I was explaining. That's why I didn't understand what I said. Of course, when we have this, now I'm not going to teach you how to make arrow here, the subject. How to make arrow here come this side. You have to remove all the others. 100. This one, I don't think I even need to teach it, because it is somebody who teaches math that will teach you that. And he has already taught you. Half here, because whatever is in the brackets is to the power half. Okay, so it goes down here, it becomes, of course, 4.5 means the square root of 4. Okay. And what remains this side now is, since you have removed that's why you have only error here, which is because root 4 is 2. Thank you. Okay, it is yeah. I know some of you, where you come from, your parent gives you something, just walk away. Huh? No, you say thank you. Okay. Okay. Thanking is a noble duty for everyone. Okay. Okay. Now,
Excuse me, sir.
No, let me continue. You ask later.
Oh.
Just wait now a bit. Okay. Now, we said that for a farm to maximize profits, it can either minimize cost subject to given level of output, and that one we have covered, and how we can do that, and we get those optimal values, the specific values, optimal. By the farm. This is the other second route that it can take. Using either route, it will achieve point A, the optimal band, and it will get mix. You are aware that we shall not just only have K naught, L naught, or K star, L star. Once we get it, and we feel we are comfortable. No. whether it will be a star. I mean, for A, where we have K naught, L naught. This time around, we have several isoquants, Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3. In other words, the farm has different production. So now that's the reason we want to maximize. So we pick one that is really optimized for us from Q1, Q0, Q2, Q3. Okay, subject to given constraint, which is now the cost. So the cost here is the constraint. You can see now we have reversed the problem. Okay, so from this graph you can see that we are interested in A. Why? Because A, that point A, lies on the highest. Remember now, our interest here is to maximize output. Output is maximized, so we are looking at the highest isoquant possible, given the ISO cost. Okay. Now, the ISO cost given here is KL, and therefore the only isoquant that is tangent to that ISO cost is Q2, okay, is Q2. Although we would be aware of producing Q3, but we cannot manage that. We don't have that capacity, okay, because our cost is KL, the ISO cost line. So that is the meaning of this graph. But as I said, whether you minimize cost subject to given output or you maximize output subject to given cost, you will get the same thing, bundle K naught and L naught, or whatever we called it last time, K star, L star. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Okay, you can either go through Masaka and then Rukaya, you come to Kampala. but you can still decide to move from Mbarara, you go to whatever, Fort Portal, you go to Mubende, still you come to Kampala. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is our interest. Therefore, is to maximize output. So what we do is still not different from what we said. Of course, here I'm just giving you different kind of isoquants. I think this one, I think you can cover, you have covered it in production, that we have different kinds of isoquants. It doesn't matter. This one is a concave isoquant, okay? But normally isoquants are convex. Okay? So this is a special kind of isoquant. This is just to note, okay, to note, but it is not for me at this juncture. Of course, I'm saying that in order to have this point solved, we need still the slopes must be equal. At point A, the slope of the isoquant must equal to the slope of the isocost. Okay, still the condition is the same. Okay, and that means that the slope of the isoquant, which is the MPL over MPK, must equal to the slope of the isocost, which is W over R. You can see that sometimes they may not even put the negative W over R because of the intuition that the isocost line is always downward sloping, which is well known. Okay, and the issue will be that what if you find out that actually the ratio of these marginal productivities is actually greater than the ratio of the prices? What do you of labor to the marginal product of capital is greater by reducing on capital input from capital input K naught set to K star, and increase labor from L naught up to L star, and the reverse is okay, at point A. Okay. You must manipulate these kind of things. MPL over MP, X can be K. You can call it K. Okay. So if you have this greater than W over R, you must struggle. Okay. So if you have this scenario where the ratio of the marginal productivities is greater than the ratio of the prices of those inputs, so what you have to do here is to actually employ more make adjustments and do what, and reduce on the capital. Once you reduce on the capital, you look here, marginal product of capital here down. Once you reduce it, what will happen? If you reduce, on capital, it will mean that the marginal product of capital here will be increasing. It always takes the reverse direction. Increasing capital here means that the marginal product of capital will reduce. Okay, but as we have said here, reducing capital input, okay, will make this marginal product big, and therefore, at the end of the day, it will make this whole fraction small. The entire fraction will be smaller, and therefore later on it can equate to W over R. Let us do it practically. Okay, let us do it practically. We have a mathematical example here, okay, where we minimize output Q as a function of capital and labor. Do is actually to lambda into C minus RK minus WL. Remember, C minus RK minus WL, the other side remains with a 0. So this is the Lagrangian function. dzdk. Okay, dzdk here, in other words, we differentiate z with respect to k. Okay. We differentiate z with respect to k, and that means we shall get fk here. Remember, this is just a function, so it is fk. Fk means that we are differentiating, we are getting once you put a lambda inside
Recording stopped.
which is giving us that. So we take dz dk. Why are all these ones equal to 0? We are saying dz dk must equal to 0. These are first order conditions. Okay, first order conditions. So dz dk, we have found that, and we know also that dz dl, we have also got it as fl minus lambda w. Of course, lambda w, because lambda here multiplies inside here. For those who are slow at understanding these things, please always multiply this lambda throughout here. Okay, and then you will get lambda c, and here negative r lambda k, then negative lambda wl. Okay, okay, so then it becomes fl minus lambda w is equal to 0. But also you know that FL is your marginal product of labor. That is not good news. Okay. Then we have dz d lambda. Dz d lambda, lambda is outside here. So whatever its coefficient is, which is c minus r k minus wl, will be the final result for dz d lambda. So dz d lambda gives you c minus r k minus wl, which you also equate to 0. Okay, because these are first order conditions. So we have now these three equations. We have equation 2, we have equation 3, and we have equation 4. Okay. Don't forget that FL is the same as margin product of labor. FK is the margin product of capital. This was a typo here. It is supposed to be capital. Okay. Okay. So that's it. And then we have so we have 3 equations. So what we do, we deal first with the first 2 equations. Okay, equation 2 and equation 3, just as we did before. And once you do that, you are going to find, of course, your lambda. You equate lambda to lambda. Of course, here lambda in the first equation, lambda here will equal to what? To fk over r. In the third equation, lambda will be given as fl over w. Okay, that one is simple math. Okay, in other words, make lambda the subject. Okay, so you equate those 2 lambdas now, because lambda is equal to lambda. So fl over w, over fk over r is equal to fl over w. You see that we have the same condition, exactly the same condition that we had before. Okay, so we have mpk over mpl is equal to r over w. Okay, and so once we continue, we actually get the lambda is equal to mpk over r, lambda is equal to mpl over w. We equate them. At this point here, we could equate them, and we shall get the condition for optimum behavior. That is where the 2 slopes are equal, and actually even the interpretation mpl over r, mpk over r, and then mpl over w is the same. The marginal productivity, the ratio of the marginal productivity to r meaning that the value of the manual productivity per dollar, okay, per dollar spent on capital should be equal to the value of manual productivity per dollar spent on labor. So that is something that you need to note here. We follow the same process. Now, what here has been added here and new is that if we actually multiply the W is equal to 1, you may not take this one of it because it is not necessarily at your level, because it has, of course, some meaning which is important later on. And we shall see that the shares, when you add the shares, you have actually to add to 1, okay? But it makes no sense at this point in time. So what is important is to know that. Now, after you have known what lambda is, if you had this is a generic example, then you, since that value has been got, okay. We are saying that F L over W is equal to Fk over R, okay? There, you may not go very far with this problem because you don't have the actual values, okay? But if we had the actual values for L, or for R and the W, it would be possible for us to proceed and find out what exactly is the value. We insert actually what we have got. We make K the subject, maybe from those two. We make K the subject of the formula, and then whatever we get, we insert it in equation number 4. Okay, the constraint equation. Okay, constraint equation. That is, but we are going to see an example regarding that. But we have just mentioned that a firm could have different sets of budget sets, cost outlays. Okay, like in this graph here that you see on your screen. Okay? We have different sets. But now for the difference here is that for each there is for each of the budget, for each of the cost, the ISO cost line, there is an isoquant, optimal. So we can find even optimal levels for cost 1, isoquant 1, cost 2, isoquant 2, cost 3, isoquant 3. Once we get those optimal values for each of these, then we join all those points together. What we get is what we call an expansion path. So in other words, the firm has an expansion path where we have cost minimizing inputs. Cost minimizing inputs for this firm are located along the expansion path. Okay, they are located along the expansion path. In other words, it is a curve that shows the cost minimizing output of each input for every level of output. So it is the cost minimizing amount of each input for every level of output. I repeat, it is a curve that shows the cost minimizing amount of each input for every level of output. So for every level of output, choose one. The cost minimizing level you have, for example, discover lies at this point where you have K1, L1. Okay. Then, if you are faced with another ISO cost line, C2, the point of tangency is the second one here. Okay. Then the point of tangency for Q3 faced with C3 is somewhere here. Okay. So join all those points, cost minimizing points, because these are all points. These are all optimal points where the firm minimizes the cost. So minimizing the cost provides us with the cost minimizing values. So joining all those points will give us an expansion path, okay? And I want to start off from there next time when we meet with an expansion path. Yes, two people have questions. Agira Rohanga. Okay, we have Patrice Emile. Patrice Emily. Oh, you don't have a question. You just left your hand up. So if there is no question, I just want to thank you. But I can see people putting up their hand. Yes, Roharamira Ronald.
So we are having a lecture at 2 p.m.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying we are closing. Okay. Duraniva, your colleagues have a lecture, so please you can reserve maybe a question till next time. Okay, Mukisa, you had a question. I don't know whether it is very urgent.
Since you told us that the lambda is the marginal cost,
yes.
Why don't we just like put there the marginal cost instead of the lambda?
No, because it is just our intuitive understanding of lambda, but we cannot let us not put marginal cost there. It is not directly marginal cost, but here it is actually a multiplier. Okay, it is a multiplier in this Lagrangian function. But for you now, you know that it will stand for the marginal cost.
Okay, thank you.
Colin. Colin. Mugweri, Colin, you have no question, but your hand is up. Okay, if you don't have any question, I think we can leave our colleagues to go for another lecture. But of course, we shall have to have another lecture on just like we did last time. We had it on a Sunday. We shall have it still, if unless you get another information. But if you don't, then we shall have it from 12 to 2 still on Sunday. Then those people who are doing mathematical economics, be aware that we shall have a lecture still. I think maybe I will send you the link. It should have been tomorrow from 2 to 4, mathematical economics guys. But we shall see.
Recording stopped.